everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have another fractal tone tutorial for you. Haven't done one of these for a while, but recently I was listening to some of John Mayer's Battle Studies album and came across Crossroads, and I was really inspired by this tone, so I wanted to share it with you and how I was able to dial it in on my Fractal FM3. Before we get into all that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that little like button and the little bell icon to be notified when my videos come out. And if you feel like there's any sort of tone tutorials that you want to see in the future, remember to leave a comment. Also, if this type of tutorial has worked for you, let me know as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's do a quick build. Now this tone, I've researched quite a bit. He uses a Pete Cornish NG2 fuzz pedal, and it's pretty unique in itself. It's sputtery, it's gnarly, kind of sounds farty in a way, but something really cool that John did in the studio and made known in that I think it's Guitar Magazine or Guitar World. I think it might be Guitar Magazine interview that's on YouTube. He just kind of came across this by accident, and it's there's a couple key elements to it that make it such a unique kind of sound, because by itself that NG2 is pretty out of control, like your amp is about to die out of control. But what he does is he actually turns his volume knob down on his guitar. So in the video clip that you saw at the very beginning, I used two different guitars, my PRS SE Silver Sky and my Mike Lowell SX Custom, both set on the middle pickup position, but they were dialed in just ever so slightly different because of, I guess, when I was listening to the song, the rhythm part and the solo part were similar, but I felt like the solo had a little bit more sustain to it and maybe a little bit more high-end content, so dialed it in for those needs. But let's go ahead and take a look at the amp block first. This is something pretty basic that I've come up with, and if you want to check out my John Mayer clean tone video, this is pretty much what I had on there. Made a few small tweaks, but you can see, let's go to Ideal tab. This is kind of what I have going on compared to the clean tone that I did on the John Mayer clean tone video. I turned the presence all the way down because I didn't want too much high-end content. Bright switches on. Nothing going on in the preamp, power amp. Dynamics, I always tend to have the gain enhancer on, so these are my gain enhancer settings. For the level, just play with that based on your guitar, your pickups, and your monitoring system. Moving on to the cab. For the cab, I used, so this is kind of my go-to setting right here. I usually run the 4x12 rumble with some sort of room mic IR on ultra res, and I just find that it tracks a little bit better. It sounds a little bit more true to what you might hear in a recording studio. But this is the G12 with the 65, and as you can see, I'm just soloing the rumble, because listening to Crossroads, it's very, like I said, lo-fi, in your face, so I didn't really want any sort of room reflection. Going to the preamp, let's see, I had some low cut going on, and that's it. Had a little bit of room level, so 22-ish%, but play with that, and nothing down here in Align. Now, let's go into reverb. So reverb, I just use my Go to the South Church, and I think I backed it off to like 16.5%. Always try to have it on normal if I can. And then I think I had it just under 2 seconds of a decay, and that was it. So let's listen to that clean tone. I'm on my Silver Sky SE. Let's stay on the bridge pick, or sorry, the middle pickup, and we're gonna go everything wide open on the knobs. All right, so I left it kind of bright on purpose just so when I do all my tweaking on the knobs, there's still maybe a little bit of high-end content available. All right, so let's get into the important stuff. So for the rhythm part in the demo clip, I turned on the drive block and I kept the delay block off. And I went to, it's the hard fuzz, because I really wanted something that was kind of sputtery, spitty, and this kind of got there right away. Just had to make some tweaks to it. So the first thing I did, turn the drive up. So we were at about, I think it was 8.98. Then just backed off the tone just a tiny bit, not too much. We'll have it right about there. And then the level I turned up quite a bit to 8.39 for the video. And then going down to the tone, I backed off the bass because I really wanted the lower strings to be able to ring out and not get too muddy. So brought it down 2 dB, negative 2 dB. And then bumped up the mid frequencies a bit to around 740-ish. And then did a low cut around 103 hertz. Now, again, this is going to depend on your guitar and stuff. I do find that the SE Silver Sky pickups are a little bit more full sounding and hotter for sure than my Mike Lowell SX with the Lawler Blondes in them. So moving on to the graphics EQ, I did some more low cutting. So we did 1.42, negative 1.42. Same thing here at 160 hertz. And then, let's see, we went to negative 1.29 at the 250K mark. And then this is where we start to add just a tiny bit of mid-hump just to help it cut through the mix a little bit. So 1.29 at 400, 1.56 at the 640, and that's kind of where you're really going to get it to pop through the mix without it sounding too honky. 1.29 here, and then everything else flat. And for the graphics EQ, I just thought it sounded best when it was in the pre setting. And then this is where most of the tone shaping actually does happen. The clipping type is super important because you want to get that sputtery type of tone. Now the Pete Cornish NG2 is a germanium diode clipping, but when I went to the germanium it just didn't sound quite right, so we're doing the LV tube. Left the clip shape as is. In the bias, you can play around with that. This is going to determine how much kind of sag and sputter you're going to really get. So I had it right around let's see, 0.283 for the video. And then the stew rate, I pulled it back to 8.94. If I can get there. There we go. Oh, 8.94. Something that you could mess around with if you wanted is the lo-fi bit reduce. Again, I think it depends on what your setup is, but sometimes it sounded pretty good right around 6, but I left it completely off. So we're going to play that riff with everything wide open, and you're going to hear how kind of hard that tone is. All right, so that's nowhere near the tone that we want. It's very loud, bright. So what John did was he had it around like 5-ish. I think I had it around 6. And then what I did was I rolled the tone knob on the middle pickup back to around 6 as well. So let's hear if that makes a difference. We want it to kind of almost die off a little bit. So you hear like the initial attack and everything is pretty quick, and then it dies off really quick. So let's go ahead and play a little bit. All right, so that's the rhythm. I would say you could even take the tone knob back a little bit. That's going to be personal preference. The reason why I did end up using 2 different guitars is because I just felt like the lull with the lullers kind of popped through the mix on the solo, and I really liked how the Silver Sky smoothed out the tone in a way. So we're going to go ahead and switch guitars. I'm going to plug in my Lowell SX Custom so we can go through some of the tones on the lead, the solo. So we're going to go ahead and plug in Lowell SX Custom. Same settings. That's another thing I want you to know. I did not change anything except I added a little bit of delay. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. And I think I used the stereo tape, and it was on quarter note. I believe it's 114 BPM for the song. And then we turn the time ratio up all the way. And the mix we brought down really low. Now you can mess around with this a little bit, but I think I brought it down to like 6. So we'll try it there. And let's go ahead and hear how many repeats we got. Probably too many repeats going on there. So let's... Still probably too many. Let's take the master feedback back. Seems probably pretty good where it is. Let's see. So in a mix of a song, you might hear it, you might not hear it. So let's go ahead and play a little bit of the solo. So right now, again, middle pickup on the Lowell SX, and we're at around 8.5 on the volume. And then we're gonna just kind of mess around with the tone knob, see what sounds good. Probably pull it back to maybe 7. So I'd say that's pretty stinking close. The thing with these lollers, they are very clear sounding, nice and round. The Silver Sky, I would say the pickups are a little bit more full, hotter. Um, so typically with a fuzz, when you roll back the volume, you kind of clean up a little bit. But I want to just kind of die off, um, but still get some sustain. So about 8.5 is good. You can still mess with the tone knob a little bit. So I'm going to pull it back to like 6 on this. All right, well, there you go. I think that's pretty stinking close, especially for amp modeler. But give it a try. Give these settings a go, but really try to do all the tone manipulation with your guitar if you can. And it's going to depend on if you're especially using single coils versus humbuckers. I would even say this would be a pretty good setting for I guess I just feel like that outro solo. This could possibly be a good tone for that as well. Even though we know he used, I believe it was a Vibrochamp, a crank Vibrochamp for that. But give this a try. Hope it works out for you, and let me know in the comments if it does. And we will see you next time. Take care.